Good afternoon. My name is Bruce Evanson. I'm with the Suncoast Fly Tyers Association. I'm going to tie some flies for you. Today, this particular fly is what we call the DINE 18. The reason I made this fly is because I've always enjoyed using the mirror DINE in my spinning gear, and I've caught thousands of fish on it over time. So this is my version of that. I tie this in a bend back style, so I'm going to go through this step by step for you. I am using a BMC 2-aught hook, and what I want to show you about the way to make a bend back is I'm going to put it right into my pliers here with the eye showing above right here, and I'm going to take it and just give it a slight bend. The angle that you want your hook is 10 to 15 degrees at the most. This, believe it or not, is a little too much. So I stick it back in the pliers, squeeze it down, and now I've got the angle that I desire. So what I'm going to do when I load it is I'm going to load it hook point up into the vise right here. And you notice I've got this parallel to here. So what we're going to do first is start the thread, and I'm going to use some white here. Now I want you to see where the bend of the hook is right here. When you're putting your thread on, never go down the bend of the hook, because if you allow your thread to go below the bend of the hook, then you're going to take your material when you're tying and it will pull down, and I want the material to lay straight across as we go. So the first thing I'm going to put on is a little red for the throat, and I'm going to take it here and cut off a little piece. You can see how much I've cut here, like so. I'm going to double it over to make it twice as thick and snip this off. And now I only want to show about this much, so I'm going to lay this right on the edge of the fly here on the top portion of it, and I'm going to give it a couple of wraps here, make sure it's sitting on top, bring it right up to the edge of the bend, and that's far enough to hold it down. I'm going to snip and get rid of the excess. And so while I'm tying this, I'm going to come up and completely tie over top of it. So I have that. Here I'm going to trim it down a little shorter, because like I say, I just want them to give the idea of a little bleeding or something going on, something for them to strike at. Now I've got that there. I'm going to take white bucktail next, because white's going to be my belly. And I take out a little more than the thickness of a wooden matchstick. And I'm going to cut that off. Always cut close to the skin. And you can see how much I've taken. And I take a little more than I want, because this is going to be thinned. And I'll show you how to thin this properly. I'm going to grab it way back here and get tight in the back, and you can see how much of this I'm physically pulling out. I'm going to take out probably half the amount of what I have here. Get it right to where I want it. If you've got any oddballs sticking out, pull them out. Put those where I want them. Now I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to recut this edge just so it's very straight, because I want no stray hairs going over the eye of my hook. And I'm going to lay it down right on top, just behind the hook eye, and I'm going to give it 2 wraps lightly. Center this up here, make sure it's sitting right on top. Then I'm going to pinch it again, take a nice tight grab. Now I use my fingernail to let me know where the bend of this hook is for the bend back. Because again, like I told you, I do not want any thread to go down that shank, because if it does, it's going to pull the hair down. We don't want that to happen. Now I'm going to take a little flash here. Let me see what we're using. And some pearl. I'm going to take 3 strands of pearl crystal flash. Step them off right here. I take my flash, put it underneath the fly around the thread, line it up so it's equal here. Now I'm going to bring it on the thread and pull it down to the top of the hook there in the center, give a couple wraps, then I make it where I bring it down each side of the fly, and go right here. Flash in place, and I like to trim this about 1/8 of an inch past the hair. So I have it right here. Next, I'm going to take as dark a green as you can find in bucktail, emerald, or some of the dark olives will work, but you want a dark green back. I'm going to do the same thing again as I did before, show you the amount I have, pinch it up here, start taking all the excess out. Start getting all the stray hairs out that you don't want. I want this to be approximately the same length as that, a little bit longer, and it's approximately, I would say, 2 hook lengths. So I've trimmed it off even again. Like I say, you want nothing to get in front of the eye of your hook so that it's nice and clean. And I'm going to bring this here, mark it with my thumb so I can't accidentally go too far. See, we're back here now to this, and I'm going to wrap the head up just a little more. Now I'm going to take this and half hitch it off. You can use whatever knot that you care for, but I find for me the half hitches have always worked. It's what I do. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little epoxy, the very thin, that'll soak right in. Just touch the thread gaps here a little bit. This is a 10-second set. Get my 10 seconds on here. While that's happening, I'm going to trim that off, put my thread away, turn it over, give it 10 seconds on the other side. Turn it back, and I'm going to take some red stick-on eyes. These are about 4 millimeters each. You can see them here that I have. And I'm going to take them and stick one on each side here. Sticky to my finger. One to this side. One to this side here. These are sticky. Stick to my fingers better than the fly. Okay. So I have them stuck on each side here. That's good. Now I'm going to take some of my heavier thickness in epoxy, and I'm going to start on the bottom, and I'm going to put epoxy right between the two on the bottom, Let that sit and fold together. If you get any bubbles, make sure you pop them. So I've got that on there. I've got to give this due time. It takes 30 seconds, so you're going to have to bear with me, but this is real time. So we're letting this set. And then as soon as this is set, we'll turn it over. I'm going to do between the eyes on top, and then I'm going to give each eye a coat of epoxy as well. This fly, when I fish it, is a strip, pause, and usually it's the pause when I get my strikes on them. While it's moving, they're not too quick to hit it, but when it starts again, then that's usually when the strike comes. Okay, I'm going to turn this over, give it another coat right between the eyes here. Fill that space up between the two. Let the light go to work for me here. The 10-second epoxies that I use on the thread are so thin that you can't build your head up with them because they just keep soaking or running to the bottom. So I have to use the thicker to build up my head with. So I've got some there for expediency. What I'm going to do, flip off the light a second. Now I'm going to put some on each eye. Right here. Coat some right on the eye. Rub it around to give it a little shape. Let that set long enough to set. I'll dry this hard afterwards. But letting that go. Okay. Hard enough to hold its shape. Take it off. Turn it over. Now when you're doing this, you need to give it the full 25-30 seconds to harden. And two things you can do if you don't want to sit as long with them. If you've got a wheel, you can put them on a wheel, and I take them outside in the sun and leave them out there for about a half hour and then really dry hard. If not, I haven't found many epoxies that don't end up tacky even after they're hardened. So if that tackiness bothers you, one, you can either take rubbing alcohol and wipe it off, or two, you can take some clear nail polish and give it a coat, and the nail polish will seal it in hard for you. So we're going to let this dry. But in the meantime, okay, we have basically finished, and here we go. We have a nice bend back fly DINE 18. Take this out. It's great for snook, trout, redfish. I've caught them all on it, tarpon. So it's been a very good plug and fly. Thank you.